It took me a while.
You have. She just pooped for a long time. It sounds like you're able to connect with them on like multiple levels because of
I try, yeah.
your own experiences. Hello, friends. My name is Jasmine Naomi. I am host of the Souly Human podcast. I am a clinical therapist here in Southern California, and here on Souly Human, we talk about our shared and learned human experiences, but we also talk about our soul and how our soul is what connects us to ourselves, each other, and the universe around us. So I am so excited because I have a special guest. I have a family member on tonight. Belle is my cousin. Belle's going to talk to us about some pretty cool things. So I'm so excited that you're here.
Yay, me too.
So, Belle, without telling us your job yet, how would you introduce yourself? Who is Belle?
Well, I would say I'm Belle. I love helping people. I'm a fixer. So if there's anything that's going on, I want to fix things.
You're a problem solver.
I'm a problem solver. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. So, and everyone that's been on the podcast up to this point is a healer in one way or another. All people that like to help other people. So now tell us what it is you do for work. How do you help others?
So I am a registered dietitian, but I specialize in bariatrics.
Okay.
So the bariatric population are those patients who have a high BMI, they're in the obese category, and they're looking to get weight loss surgery.
Okay.
So I assess them. We get referrals. I assess them. I kind of guide them throughout their process. With our program, it's about a 6-month process. So I do the assessments, get all their information, and then I kind of just help guide them towards that, to have their journey. Yeah, as far as habits that they're going to have to start working on.
Okay.
It's a big change for a lot of them. A lot of them come to us because they have all these health problems, and so the surgery is a really great tool to help reverse a lot of that. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So they come to you knowing that they're going to be receiving the surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
And then you do the initial assessment.
I do. Yes.
And then you're with them through that process?
Throughout the whole process.
Wow.
Yes.
You guys must get really close. Because that's just like, it sounds like such a life-changing thing.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the longest that you've had a client?
So I've been there with this program. I've been there for about a year. So I have been able to see a lot of people start their journey. So their doctors will say, hey, I think you would qualify for this. I also have patients that come to me looking for, weight loss medications, and they don't even know about surgery. And so we kind of assess them, and our team, because we also have a nurse practitioner that works with us. So she'll be like, you know what, I think that medications aren't the answer. Let's do surgery. So then that kind of goes from them wanting to just get nutritional help to, hey, let's try this other route. So I have patients that I've been with this entire time since I started. And then I have patients that are coming back to us that have had surgery like 3 years or 3 years post-op, but they saw like the previous dietitians that were there. So it's kind of cool to see both sides of that spectrum.
Yeah.
Their whole process.
Right. I was going to say the few times, it's been very few, but the few times I've had a client in therapy that I did an assessment for and then got to discharge, not a lot. So it's always pretty cool. It's pretty special.
Yeah, it's really cool. I get to see them when they start, and then I love to get all those baselines, and then just seeing them towards like today, this morning, I had patients that started with us about 8 months ago. Got surgery yesterday, so I went to check in then on today, and there's already like a huge change. So it's really cool. And then I get to see them in like 6 weeks, and that'll be cool to see that, that progress.
I feel like So typically, if they're considered in the bariatric category, then they've probably had worked with like weight issues for a long time, right? So when they come to you, I would imagine that it's not a super easy thing to like explore and kind of tackle and work on with you. So how do you approach that? Because I feel like that's such a personal, intimate thing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. Most of the time, especially during my assessment, I'll be like, okay, have you always struggled with your weight? Because also what we provide is we have access to sending them these genetic testing kits, because now we're seeing there's a genetic component to the whole, obese situations. And so I'll assess them for that. And like, have you always struggled? Was it more so as an adult? So I do see a lot of patients that just kind of grow up in that environment where they're genetically predisposed to that. And then it doesn't help, just with like environmental situations and things like that. So I do see a lot of that. I see a lot of patients who struggle as adults and they've had some type of trauma, whether it be physical abuse or, emotional, mental. And so a lot of their coping skills, they just turn to food, right? So I do have a history with mental health. And so just being able to kind of use that and bring it into my job now. And then I struggled also too with an eating disorder as a teenager. So kind of knowing, and I kind of see the signs, especially when they're telling me these like, oh, well, I used to do this. I'm like, okay. So I try to stay within my scope. It's really hard for me because, again, I'm a fixer and I'm like, oh, okay, let me just love up on you. And
Right.
I feel you. I feel your pain. I think that kind of helps me connect a lot with them.
Okay.
So it is cool to see, and that fills my cup when I see them even like halfway through the process. Like they know they can call me. So that's one thing that I've always been like, okay, whatever I do in my profession, I want to be able to be there. Because I do hear a lot of, okay, well, my doctor basically dismissed me or didn't listen to me. Or they did send me to a nutritionist, but they were like, okay, you just got to eat better and do this. And here's a plan. And that's it, So I'm like, it doesn't really fix the problem. Again, I know I have to stay with my scope, but if I can kind of listen, because a lot of them are just like, you know what, thank you, I'm glad you listened. Like, you're the first provider I've had that's just listened. And so that kind of, and it helps. And then it helps motivate them. And I'm always like, hey, I'm your cheerleader. So if you're struggling, let me know, call me. So every day, every morning, I have emails from patients like, hey, what vitamins do I take? Or, hey, am I doing this right? And it's fine. I can send a quick email, not a problem.
Yeah.
People call me all the time, every day. I'm like, give me some time. I'll get back to you because I'm busy all day long. Yeah, it's cool to build that. And that, again, that fills my cup because I feel like I'm actually helping when they tell me like, hey,
Yeah.
And I have those that are like, well, you weren't helpful at all because they just want me to prescribe a medication. I don't do that. I'm sorry, I can't help you. Okay. So, yeah, but I love it. I love it.
So I know you mentioned briefly, like, you see the mental health in it. So if you can, could you tell us what your background is in mental health? And then what are some of like the connections that you see in the patient that you work with and mental health?
Yeah. So before this, I've always been in school. It took me a while.
You have. She just flew for a long time. When we went to her graduation, I think I shed a tear for you. I said she is done, finally.
I'm like, what's next?
Right.
Let's go. My husband's like, we're done, right? We're done. I'm like, done. I don't know. I might want a doctorate. So I have a master's. And it's weird because I never when I first started out school, it was just all about like having fun and stuff. I finally took it serious at some point, right? Obviously. So that's what's taken me so long to get here. But so I've worked quite a bit, different things. How I ended up as a case manager is I started out from the bottom, basically, because I've just been in school working to try to get here. But my son's on the spectrum, so there is this program called the Wraparound Program. I started out as a parent partner. So for that position,
I didn't know that.
yes, for that position, so cool. Yeah, you have to have this experience, whether with foster kids or have your own kids with disabilities. And so that kind of got me into that program. I worked my way up. As soon as I got my master's, I started working for a company out in Rancho, South Coast Community Services. Loved it there. Absolutely loved it. Ended up being a facilitator because I got my master's. So I was case managing, working with tons of foster kids, and that whole just starting that job, like I would cry all the time because I'm like, ugh, just hear all these cases. I would see, have to do CPS reports, and just I connected so much with those kids. So that kind of, just getting it's just so little too. It's crazy, you get these kids who are diagnosed with ADHD or schizophrenia or just so yeah, I got to see a lot of that. And so I was blessed to be able to do my schooling, finish my master's, and get my internship hours at the same time. I don't know how I did it. I'm thinking about it now. I had a couple breakdowns. But
I'm sure.
It was fine.
Sure.
It was fine. And yeah, so, good thing is I had those coping skills myself.
Right.
To be able to kind of get through that. But, yeah, that's kind of where, I got everything. And then growing up, so I was diagnosed. I have anxiety. I still struggle with that. I'm still on medication, actually, for that. I, at some point, tried to wean myself off, and I did, but, with school and everything, I get a lot of panic attacks. So I know what they are now. Before I didn't. I thought I was having heart attacks a lot.
You feel like you're dying.
You feel like you're dying.
You really think you're going to die.
And it just comes on out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So till this day, I'll still have some. Years ago, my doctor was like, oh, it's genetic because my dad has, depression, anxiety. My grandma suffers from severe anxiety. And so, yeah, I remember, I think I was 18 when I had my first panic attack, and I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's all that. I struggled with that. I deal with it in my own way, so I'm constantly either running or spin
or right.
Just working out. That's like my coping skill to keep me sane. But yeah, and then I had also, like I mentioned, an eating disorder when I was younger. It started with my mom, and as an adult now, I'm like pinpointing all these things just from me working with my patients and seeing. I'm like, oh, I remember. Okay, and then now I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, it's crazy. So I know she had a lot of her own insecurities. Back then, we had a lot of trauma, a lot of stress too. So I don't know. It's weird to think about it, like how that just kind of like went on to me, and then like I created all of this. So I always knew I wanted to do something with nutrition because kind of like engraved in my brain.
Yeah.
But now I'm noticing that wasn't really healthy, how that was being portrayed to me, at that time. It's crazy.
Well, because it isn't until like later, I feel like as adults, we're able to look back and make a bunch of connections. We're still here in the present, stuck with whatever it is, and we find our ways to work through those things. But it's like you're able to make connections.
Yeah.
And I think that's a wild experience because then you have a lot of understanding, but it's like whatever pain or anger or sadness or frustration, for teenage self or for little self, it's still there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I remember when I was working my past job, my supervisor, I loved her so much. She was just like the best.
This is at South Coast?
South Coast, yes.
Okay, side note, the
Yes.
last guest that we had on here, she's currently a clinical therapist at South Coast.
Oh,
She's a mental health clinician. We went to school together.
awesome.
I know. So
Oh
you
my
said that and I was
gosh.
like, whoa,
Yeah.
in Rancho. So that's
Oh
funny.
my God.
Yeah.
She probably knows like
It's
my
possible.
people.
Yeah.
She probably knows my people. I still keep in contact with them.
That's cool.
But yeah, so because they knew that I was working on becoming a dietitian, they gave me a lot of cases with kids with eating disorders. And then I remember she sat down with me during one of our supervisions. She's like, I should have asked you this, but are you being triggered at all by this case? Like, I know a little bit about your background. And I'm like, you know what? In the beginning, yes. But it's okay. Like, it's kind of helping me kind of work through some things, which I didn't really realize, which is crazy. So I absolutely loved this girl. And like all my kids, I called them my babies. I'm like, oh, my baby. She was a teenager. She was in and out of Loma Linda a lot. But there I was there with her, you know, because you drive out to see them. And she actually just graduated from she was with our program forever. And she just graduated a couple months ago. And she asked for me to be at her graduation. I was like, oh my God. It made me cry. I was like, oh my God, my baby.
Yeah.
So her current case manager FaceTimed me in because I was at work. So I was like, oh my God, I'm so proud of you. She's doing amazing. And so it really took a team to kind of get her there. But again, that's like the best part. Like I get to see the beginning and I get to suffer with them. And then... Yeah, you know, so.
How did you do that? Like so you said there was a moment where in the beginning, it was triggering. And then it was kind of like also helping you work through things.
Yeah.
So how did you navigate that? Because then you also got a lot going on too.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's like, how did you internally move through that?
So I say that I have my people for everything. Like
I have too, a friend for a designated.
For everything. I have my friend who will keep it real with me, and I need that tough love. And I have that friend that's like, all right, like you can go fight, let's go fight, right? I think I'm that friend for everybody. But she's like, let's go, I got you. And then I have those friends that I just want to like talk to, and like we can actually talk, and like they'll make me laugh, and you know, so I have someone for everybody, for everything. So just using my resource, my natural support, right?
Your natural
for
support.
Everything. My supervisor, I had an amazing team there at South Coast. Like our pod, like, and we still keep in touch. We have a group text. Like
that's so cool.
That's what I do miss is I miss them. I love my people now, but it's different. I'm kind of like it's kind of weird. I'm like on my own, but I'm not almost.
It's a different team. I feel like in thinking about mental health and thinking about what you're doing now, how you're teaming together is different, I'm sure.
It's different. Like, so it's basically just myself, our nurse practitioner, and my, our registered nurse that works there.
Okay.
Yes. And I love them, and we're a good team, but technically I am, how do I say it? I'm with the dietitians. I'm part of the hospital. It's a different company, and then they're a separate company.
Okay.
So a lot of times I don't know how to explain it. It's just it's different. It's different. Yeah.
That's cool that you still keep in touch. So you were a parent partner and a case manager, or a parent partner for the time you were there?
So I started off with a company called Oak Grove Center in Marietta. I started out as a parent partner there. They had a desert pod, which I was part of. So I worked as a parent partner for maybe 2-3 years. And then I was like, I want to move up. Like, I'm ready. So they went ahead and promoted me to like a case manager, so like a facilitator. And then I was there, and then I ended up just moving on because, you know, just wanted better opportunities. And so that's when I ended up at South Coast. And I had just gotten my master's. It was December 2018. And then I started with him like in January. So it was really cool to like transition up. So
That is cool.
yeah.
For those that don't know, wraparound services is like an intensive team that comes into a home to work with a youth, and the team members, there's usually a parent partner, there's a clinical therapist, there's a case manager, behavioral therapist. Is there one more? Sometimes there's a psychiatrist on
Sometimes
staff.
psychiatrists, you do work with a lot, and then you work with the social workers from the county, work with other providers too, just whatever the kid needs at that time. Like we worked with a dietitian with that one case I had. Yeah.
So you guys all know right now I'm a clinician in a group home. When our kids transfer, or usually when they make it and they step down into a foster home, some of the times we're waiting for a wraparound team to take over before we drop services, because wraparound, it's like a high needs. It's high level
intense.
need.
Yes. Yeah.
And so it would kind of be like group home, wrap services. Higher than that is just like an inpatient facility.
Yeah.
So I say that to say that if you have a wrap team, your kiddo's going through it, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So they need help in school. They need help with friends, with their family at home. Usually the parents are like going crazy, bio or foster, especially foster parents. I feel like, 'cause they're like, I don't know if I can handle this kid.
I've met quite a few that I've had to talk down from a ledge. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
Same.
like, what do I do?
Same.
Yeah.
But I just remember the times that we had a parent, like a good parent partner on the team, made such a difference.
Oh, yeah.
Like crucial, because you having your own life experiences, not only with just your mental health, but also with David and having to work through that system, because it is a system.
It's a system.
And it's difficult. And so the times when we had a parent partner, it's just next level, because they have done it and they understand.
Oh, yeah.
And as a therapist, I can say, I can't understand how difficult this must be, and I can empathize and I can validate, but nothing hits like when someone's done it, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And so I was always so thankful, because we didn't always have certain team members, you know? So the times that we had a parent partner, it was just like always really great, because then it's an additional support.
Oh, yeah.
That isn't a therapist, that isn't a social worker. It's someone that's done it, you know?
Oh, yeah. No. And if you have like a really good one.
Yeah.
Like I still have some that work at. I'm like, I love them. Like they would just come in and just be like, no, look, like, and then some parents needed that. Like, I need you to, they would just tell it like it is. Like, look, you're the problem.
Yeah.
You're the problem. We just got to tweet. And yeah, so, and then there's a way about it, right? You know, just come in and be like, no, you're the problem. But a lot of times, you know.
Yeah. And like when I meet people that are in school and stuff, I'll tell them that if you're working with kids, you're working heavily with parents.
With parents.
Because believe it or not, no one told me that. Should I have assumed? Maybe. Did I? No.
Girl.
So it is so stressful, because it's like, I can hang out and work with this kid all day.
Oh, yeah.
But if parents and I are not on the same page, it's for what, you know?
Exactly.
And they're in the home with you. You got to be doing these things. But so often it's never that. You know?
No.
And it's like you have grown adults that have already like stepped into their beliefs and their values and their behaviors, their own behaviors, you know? So just know, if you're excited about working with kids, because it's cute and fun and creative.
Even as a teacher, because my best friend is a teacher, she's like, I'm done with this. Like, you deal with the parents.
Yeah.
So not to say parents are crazy, because I'm a parent. I know I'm a crazy parent, but it's tough.
I can't say I'm not a parent, and some of you guys are great. Some of you guys are driving me crazy, but it's just this thing of like, I can understand how when you have someone telling you to do something different for your kid, I can understand.
It's almost like, don't tell me how to raise my kid.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So a lot of the times it was like, we can just understand that we all want to help your kid. We're on the same team, I promise.
You got to put your therapist voice on.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, girl.
So just know that, in case you're thinking about it, it is super fun, super worth it, but just know that's a huge component in it.
It's a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
So your patients now,
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like you're able to connect with them on like multiple levels because of
I try.
your
Yeah.
own experiences in eating disorders, your own experience with mental health, and kind of just what that journey looks like. How has it been, getting to this place that you really wanted to be at?
It's weird.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, I'm here. Like,
You're here.
now what?
Mhm,
My husband's like,
mhm.
we're done.
Mm-hmm.
We're done, right? I'm like, I don't know. But no, I can't. I'm tired. I was like, should I go back? Should I get my doctorate? I really don't need it for what
Right.
I'm doing because I already have a master's.
Right.
And there's a shortage with dietitians. Like,
Mm.
I'm always getting job listings.
Yeah.
Always. And so there's a huge shortage. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I think I'm okay. I think I'm good, I think it was just that need to kind of prove to myself, like, you can do hard things. Like,
Yes.
let's do it. Let's,
Yes. And you did it.
It's weird. It feels weird. Like, it still feels kind of like, this is weird. Like I was telling you earlier, like, I have interns now. Like, that's crazy. And they're like looking up to me to and I'm like, I actually know what I'm talking about. This is weird.
So it kind of, maybe this isn't the same thing, but do you ever experience like the imposter syndrome?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Okay.
All the time.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
It's crazy. It's like, okay, things are good. Is something bad going to happen? Like,
Yeah.
Like, this is weird because, like, forever, like, I just was like, when am I going to get there?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, because I've only had my license for about a year, but, like, last year, I was just like, I can't wait to be at that point where I don't have to come home and just study. Like, I can be, like, official,
Mm-hmm.
and be like, yeah, I am a registered dietitian, Actually had a patient ask me that today.
Okay.
He was like, because there are so many, and I know you see this too as a therapist, you see these people that are, and nothing wrong with it, right? Being, what are they? Okay, so for me, it would be like these nutritionists, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that have certificates. Because there's all these programs, or you can be like a health coach,
Mm-hmm. I understand.
But it's certificates.
Yes.
So I think he was just making sure I was official.
Mm-hmm.
So again, nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, we do go to school forever and ever and ever to try to like be official.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, he was like, well, what? Because he was kind of hesitant. Like, okay, you're giving me these recommendations. Are you a nutritionist? Are you a dietitian? I'm like, no, I'm a registered dietitian. He's like, oh, okay. I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, because you are putting a lot of trust in, what it is you're saying,
Yeah.
And I've had people even ask me like, are you licensed? And I'll tell them I'm not. I'll tell them I am pre-licensed, which allows me to provide therapy. I have a supervisor.
Right.
I'm like 3 years in, but I'm not a licensed clinical social worker,
Yeah.
because it's like that registration, that licensure, it's different,
Yeah.
And so with such a big part of your life, I don't blame him for asking,
Yeah. He was cute. It was funny. But yeah, so I don't remember what the question was, but yeah.
I don't either, but I know that there was
my squirrel. No, I just,
I don't remember what the initial question was, but I think we both answered. I think you talked about it. But the second part was talk to me about like the connections between the mental health and your clients and what that looks like, how you help them navigate that.
Yeah, so I have like during their assessment, like I said, a lot of them are there's a lot. Okay, so I have a lot of patients that do have like schizophrenia, bipolar. Those are the ones I kind of worry about a little bit because I've experienced them in person, and sometimes they'll have episodes, and I'm like, okay, are you going to be okay after surgery? Because this surgery you really need to make sure that they're making these changes, because if not, they can get sick, like very sick, end up in the hospital, which I've had a few, because again, they're not changing mentally how their relationship with food. and then just doing the things just because they're like, well, food makes me happy. Let me go have some food. Sugar, but physically you can't do that because you will make yourself very sick.
Okay.
So I do have a lot of patients that when they come in and I'm getting their history, usually they're okay. They're managed. They have like their psych team that works with them. They do need to be cleared by psych. So we do refer them to different psychs to have an evaluation before. So they have to pass multiple
assessments,
evaluations. I'm initially the first one, so I'm like the gatekeeper. So I'm like, all right, okay, looks like you're okay. See you for 3 months consistently. Okay, we're good. They usually have them see the psych after their second or third visit with me. The psych will usually, and from what I've been hearing, because it's always someone different, they usually ask them, well, what have you been working on? Are you prepared for this mentally? Do you think you'll be okay? And we've had a few that just don't pass the psych. And I'm like, I could see that coming just from my interactions with them. For example, I have someone who had a lot of trauma, like lost a kid, lost a parent, lost a sister, like all in the same couple months, was like raped, and again, I'm not, a HIPAA, I'm not saying any names, but a lot of this is from a lot of people that I hear a lot of this stuff happens to. Yeah. And so for this person, becoming a bigger person to kind of scare away people was kind of like a defense mechanism. But also that affected this person mentally because this person was having like these meltdowns and then would go over to a different personality and then would be okay. And then, in my initial visit with this person just like shut me down midway through my assessment and was like, this is too much information. And I don't try to get overwhelmed because I know everyone has different learning styles. So I prefer to have them in person for me to do my evaluations. I do a lot of online classes if they prefer like a group setting. So I do that as well. But I prefer everyone in person because I can kind of get to know them and gauge them better.
Way better.
Yeah. And if they need visuals, I have tons of visuals. I have tons of examples of things. I give handouts. Yeah. So, but this person was like, no, this is too much information. I'm like, okay, but I was literally just going to give you 3 goals. I always give 3 simple goals to work on every single person based on whatever their current needs are. I'm like, this is what we're going to work on. For that reason, because it is a lot of information. So that's why we continue to work with them too. That way they're getting it little by little. So there's a lot of schizophrenia, a lot of bipolar, a lot of depression, anxiety. A lot of that affects, especially, I have a couple, males also that kind of suffer a lot of that too. Things like erectile dysfunction just kind of makes them not want to be around anyone, or it causes issues with their marriages. And so, and not only their health, but it's affecting everything, how they see themselves, especially my women are just like, oh my gosh, like I don't like how I look. I just don't even want to go anywhere. I have a lot who are like, I can't take care of my kids because they're running around everywhere and I can't keep up and I wish I could do more things with them. Had someone that was like, and they make me cry too. I'm like, oh my God, girl, I'm right there with you. Like, I'll just be crying. They're like, I can't even go to the amusement parks because I can't fit in any of the rides. And my kids are like, we want to do stuff, but we can't because you're big, basically. So I'm always like, I got you. I'm going to be your cheerleader. Like, so I really try to build that connection, like first visit with them so that they know they have support because this whole time they've been going with no support. And it irks me and nothing wrong with doctors. I love doctors, but there are some doctors that are like, hey, you just got to eat better and exercise. just based off of their BMI. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all. That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's not always the case. I have some people, their BMI is like 35, but they are like, they eat cleaner than me. They're super fit, but they can't lose weight. So at what point do you say it's something else that we got to figure out?
Yeah.
So I tell everybody, like, you know what? You could be doing all these things, but sometimes it's not all about just that. So I actually got to go talk to our resident doctors and like give them like a presentation on how to start off with like nutrition education.
That's amazing.
So I was like, yeah, the nurse practitioner's like, can you talk to them? I'm like, okay. So I was a little nerve-wracking because I'm like, they're going to be doctors. And she's like, but you're the expert. And I forget that sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay.
That is so cool. Well, because
So I did, yeah.
I'm sure it would make such a difference if even those encounters that they have with patients, you know?
Yeah.
That's so cool that you got to like talk to them about that.
She was like, just kind of bring it up because a lot of them, and I have so many that come to me with misinformation, and like let's say they have like I had a patient who came in who's diabetic. She's like, my doctor told me I should fast and do intermittent fasting, and I'm like, okay, no. You're gonna pass out and die on me. Don't do that. So and it's like a joke at work. They're like, don't nobody say that you don't eat breakfast. Don't nobody say you're fasting because Belinda will come and yell at you. Yeah. Because I'm like, no, like, don't do that. Yeah. So because of whatever the trends are, there are some doctors that will just kind of gravitate towards that. And I get that. But there's dietitians, so use your providers, use your referrals, refer out, you know, and it's not at all doctors, but I have a lot of patients like, well, my doctor told me just to do this, but that's not working. So what do we do? I've tried this. I tried the cabbage soup diet. And I'm like, girl, I don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a whole lot of stuff. So, yeah.
I had a lot of like, stomach stuff going on like a few years ago, really bad. Like I didn't want to eat any food because anything I would eat would upset my stomach and I'd be in pain. So it was a whole thing for like a year, and I had talked to my doctor about it. They did like a bunch of tests, did a bunch of stuff, and they didn't find anything. So then he handed me a pamphlet and he was like, try this. It was like a nuts and seeds diet. I was like, I'm sorry. What? What am I, a bird? I was like looking through it and I was like,
oh my
okay.
God.
I went home and I was like, I'm not doing that. Like it goes back a month later. I'm like, I'm gonna be honest, I did not do anything you asked me to do. He was like, oh, that's okay. And I'm like, so it was a whole thing. I'm pretty sure I ate too much like veggie meat, like a lot of veggie meat.
That's the thing.
All the time, every day, because that was provided to me at my campus for lunch.
Yes.
And dinner and breakfast. So I think it was that in conjunction with stress and anxiety. That's what I've come to decide.
That's a thing.
But I was like,
it is.
You really just handed me a pamphlet and just said, try changing your entire lifestyle.
Right.
And so I was like, all right, I can no longer take you seriously. I just got to figure out what foods I can eat and what foods I can't. So, yeah.
Hilarious.
So I can't imagine like being in their position and really having gone through this for like their life. Usually it sounds like.
It's their lives, their entire lives. It's the stories you hear, it's crazy. It's a lot. It's a lot of that. It's a lot of, I did see a nutritionist, and they just gave me a diet plan and they would tell me to follow it, but it got too expensive. I'm like, was it like a program? Because there are some programs out there. Again, nothing wrong with this. There's some programs that will basically say, all right, sign up with us. We'll tell you what to eat. We'll tell you what to buy. You have to take these supplements, and we're going to check in with you like every single day. Again, health coaches type of situation. So for me, and nothing wrong with that. But what I try to tell them, because I do have so many that come, they're like, oh, you're going to give me a diet plan? You're going to tell me what to eat? Tell me. You just tell me what to do and I'll do it. I'm like, okay, I have meal plans. I absolutely can create one for you. Not a problem. But, and I tell them this every single time, this is for ideas only. This is not a diet. I don't put people on diets. I work with what you're doing and I teach you how to sustain it on your own. Because if I try to tell you, here's a diet, you're going to get tired of that. And then you're going to be like, oh, nobody wants to restrict themselves.
Yeah. And
it's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable.
And this is why we have a lot of these yo-yo diets. And that creates your fat stores to go up and down, up and down, up and down. So then what happens is once you reach a certain age, even if you hit menopause, things like that, you're going to have those fat stores and then your body's just going to be out of whack. Okay? Because the body's, once you're a certain weight, a lot of times the body will try to fight to get back to there because it was comfortable. The body does not like to lose weight. The body likes to be comfortable. So if you're doing all these weird changes, that's why a lot of people who go on these crash diets lose a bunch of weight really fast and then they gain it back double. So, yeah, it's...
Does the same thing apply for, let's say you have an eating disorder, let's say you're anorexic or bulimic. Is it the same where the body in that case won't want to gain weight because it's comfortable small? Or it applies more to when...
yeah, so I mean, at that point, you could absolutely gain weight very, very fast because that's not really that's kind of hard to sustain and it's dangerous too at that point, right? Because then you're losing a lot of like electrolytes, especially if you're like throwing up, things like that. Go to cardiac arrest. So at that point, because usually you start off being a certain weight. So a lot of the patients who tend to try to stay down, they're kind of battling that a lot. Your weight might fluctuate a little bit. You know what I mean? It's a struggle. And I remember my patient too telling me like, yeah, like you can't even have anything because you're going to go up, right? Even water, stuff like that, right? So and a lot of it's fluids too. I try to explain to my patients because they're like, oh, I'm just not going to have any carbs. I'm like,
well, that's what you hear, you know?
I'm like, carbs are not the enemy. Our brain uses carbs for energy, but it depends on what you're doing, right? If you're eating a bunch of cookies and pies all day, of course, you're going to gain weight, and especially if you're not active. But a lot of people don't realize fruit is carbs. Like your fruit are carbs, your starchy vegetables, like potatoes, corn, your whole grains. And a lot of times, like people on these keto diets, they're like, I lost a bunch of weight. That's water weight. So if you're coming off of any type of carb, for 1 gram of carb attracts 3 grams of water.
Okay.
So if you stop eating carbs, you're going to lose water. But if you try to go back, because again, people get tired of restricting themselves. You eat even a piece like an apple or something, you're gonna gain some water weight. Like So I have a lot of patients like, oh my God, I gained a pound, or I only lost a pound. I'm like, it's okay. Okay. Like, did you eat anything today? Did you like poop? Like, did you not poop? Are you constipated? It's your weight is fluctuating day to day.
Yeah, right.
So if you're on your period, right? Like, I have a patient that gains like 7 to 10 pounds just right before her period. Like, it's your period. It sucks to be a girl. It sucks.
And I was talking to one of my friends that came on and talked with us about it. We as women are constantly cycling through different like hormonal cycles.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas, and it's not just during our cycle, it's like their entire existence.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing. Yeah.
So, how do I ask this question? So let's say what I'm hearing is that, certain things are just like Band-Aids for certain things. And so it sounds like this surgery, which that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
What is this surgery that we're talking about?
So there's 3 different types of procedures.
Okay.
I know a couple years ago, the lap band was like a thing, right? because that was fairly new. A lot of people were getting it. It wasn't as invasive because basically they just tighten a band around your stomach. But it's crazy because now, like within this year, we've had maybe 2 or 3 people come in with that, and the doctor has to remove it because it's kind of almost started to erode into the stomachs. So they're no longer doing that procedure.
Ooh,
yeah.
Okay.
There's the gastric bypass, which is basically the stomach. You have your stomach, and then they take 80% of it out.
Okay.
And then they remove the rest of it. It's actually really cool to see. I got to see surgery.
Ooh.
And so you're left with like a little banana, basically. Okay, that's the gastric sleeve. That's like the least, I guess, invasive. The next one would be the Roux-en-Y, which is a gastric bypass.
Okay.
So that one, they make like a little pouch, but they take, I get this one confused. They remove something, a piece of the stomach's still in there chilling because the stomach will provide like the gastric juices, but nothing is going in there.
Oh,
so they're rerouting
like
how it goes.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're having like not as much absorption.
Okay.
Okay. And then you have the duodenal switch, which is a little bit more complicated, so I can't explain it.
Okay.
But that one, our surgeon that we work with, he's awesome. He's been doing that one a lot more too.
Okay.
So there's 3 different types, and it's just based off of your history. A lot of our patients that have a lot of weight to lose, like let's say they're in their 400s, right, when we first see them, usually they'll put them on some type of medication to kind of help them drop a little bit of weight right before surgery. For it to be a little bit more healthier, better, right? So those procedures, and again, because I have patients that are like, oh no, I don't want the surgery. Like we recommend it. They're like, no. If you have a lot of our patients that have a severe acid reflux or have a hiatal hernia or have GERD or really bad sleep apnea, a lot of people don't realize if you're not sleeping right, like that can cause some weight gain too. So if you're not getting enough sleep, like you're going to be struggling. Usually he'll do the bypass. The sleeve, most of our patients get the sleeve if they have like a minimal health issues.
Okay.
But it's a really good tool. I have patients like, no, that's crazy. I knew my tia's comadre's brother had surgery and they got sick and they ended up in the hospital. I'm like, okay, well, a lot of times everybody knows somebody who's had it. What were they doing? You know, were they taking care of themselves? Were they following up with their doctors? Were they doing this and that? Well, I don't know. Okay, well, you're not that person. If you have struggled with your weight all your life, if you have tried so many diets and changes and nothing's helping, this almost resets. I always tell them it's like a reset. You're getting like a brand new stomach because our stomach has certain hormones, right? You have the one that ghrelin. I call it a gremlin because it helps me remember. It was like my test stuff. I had like mnemonics for everything. So ghrelin tells you like, hey, we're hungry, let's eat, right? A lot of people have more of that to where they can't have like hyperphagia, like they just can't stop eating, right? And then you have your other one, which tells you to that like, hey, we're full. I mean, I just had a brain fart. It's ghrelin and, oh my God, where's the other one? Just had a brain fart.
We'll link it down below, guys, just in case.
Yeah. Oh my God. And I was literally talking about this today with my intern. I was quizzing her and now I can't remember.
That was me 10 minutes ago. You're good.
I swear I know this. But yeah, that one, a lot of people don't have that hormone. So they're like, oh, why can't I stop eating? Like, you know, I'm always hungry. I'm waking up in the middle of the night. I feel like I'm out of control when I'm eating. They probably don't have enough of that hormone, you know? So if we're removing that part, a lot of that kind of helps give them that like, hey, we're full, we're good.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how once they kind of start to connect that with their brain, they're like, oh yeah, like this is crazy. Like I used to like always be hungry and now I'm not even hungry. So it's an adjustment a lot. It's like let's say like a mind fuck, but it is.
I'm sure because you're experiencing
crazy.
something that you haven't experienced before.
Yeah.
And it's just changing your day to day.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, so those are the surgeries. So
Okay.
back to your question.
Thank you.
Yes, those are the surgeries. They're awesome. Our patients have such a high success rate. I have a lot of patients that come to us after having surgery in other countries. And it's crazy. And I always like to ask, like, oh, do you follow up with your provider? Do you have a dietitian that you work with? Oh, no, I saw them once, like, right before. And that was it.
Ooh.
Okay. And a lot of them come back because they have to get a revision.
Okay.
So we have a lot of patients that get the surgery, they don't do well, things stretch out again, and they're back to square one.
Okay.
So I do have a lot of those patients, so I kind of have to re-educate them. I had a patient who came to us, had surgery in a different country, was in our hospital for a couple of days. Our surgeon actually had to work on him a little bit because he was not doing good. And I came up to see, he's like, hey, can you just check in, just give him a little bit of education. I'm like, all right. So I'm like, hey, what's going on? He's like, I've just been having stomach pains for years. I'm sick. I can't stop throwing up. I'm like, ooh, okay. So I'm like, all right. So the doctor went in and kind of helped you with something. So I'm just here to give you kind of like what the diet would be, you know, because you're not technically a weight loss patient. You're a patient who's had weight loss surgery, but now we just got to have you on the diet that we usually have. And so I just started talking to him, and I was like, did they ever give you education after you had the surgery? He's like, no, I didn't even know I couldn't have like carne asada, like fatty menudo. Like, he's like, every time I would eat, I get sick. I'm like, were you eating it? Yeah. They never told you you're supposed to like stay low fat, low sugar, low carb, you know, high protein. No, nobody told. Okay, dude,
Wow.
I'm going to send you. Let me send you basically what the bariatric diet guidelines are. Okay. I was like, you'll have my email. Email me if you have questions, but please try to follow up with someone out there because this is probably why you've been sick all these years. Oh my God, maybe, yeah. I'm like, yeah.
Wow.
So it's really important. Yes, it's a major surgery, but it's important to have that support so that you have continued progress and success. So you don't end up like the comadre's brother-in-law's tia, you know? Like,
right.
Yeah.
That's wild. So let me ask you this to wrap up. I feel like you hear a bunch of things about foods. You hear a bunch of different diets.
Yeah.
You hear just a lot about food in general.
Yeah.
And I had talked with one of my friends about the SAD diet, like the standard. Yeah. So my question for you, because we do not eat well here. Well, it's not easy and convenient and educated on eating well.
Exactly.
And you have talked about the relationship between like mental health and your physical health. You've talked about what it looks like, you know, trying to adjust your lifestyle and take care of your body and what this journey looks like for some people. So my question for you is, what does our relationship with food look like for wellness? I know everyone has a different body, but as far as like how we relate to food, what does that look like for health, to be healthy?
Yeah. So my main focus with my patients, because they're like, all right, should I be focusing on calories? Should I be focusing on carbs, fat? You know, one day it's cholesterol, the other days you can't have eggs, you know, a lot. So my thing is for them to have a better relationship with food, I try to have them slowly start incorporating small little changes, kind of having that understanding that anything they put into their body has to benefit them. So is this, and I'm like, don't restrict yourself. If you want a donut, have a fucking donut. Like, it's not the end of the world. You're not gonna die. Like, it's okay. Martin hates when I die because I'm like, I told him yesterday, it's gonna be okay. I said, I'm not your patient. Don't talk to me like that. It's gonna be okay. Because they often feel like it's not. Like, it's crazy. Okay. So Sorry, I'm like I said, I talk all day, so by the end of the day,
finish your water.
I start
My
to lose
bad.
my voice. No, you're good. You're
In
good.
my defense, I thought I had the bigger size water bottles. I brought 2 of the tiny water bottles, but one in hers and one in mine, because I'm not gonna hold a cup without water in it. Go ahead. She's been talking all day at work.
I know, that's why. So I'm like, all right, is this food gonna benefit you? Like, does it have minerals, fiber, all those things? I call them nutrient dense foods. That's what I tell my patients. So I'm like, let's try working on eating, eating to live versus like living to eat type of thing. Like, we want to be healthy. We need all the good things. Let's feed it. And a lot of them are scared to have, oh my God, I'm not going to eat past 4. You're hungry at 8, eat. Like, don't starve yourself. It's just eat. But again, what are we eating? What are we having a snack? Let's have a snack. Okay, let's make sure we have a good protein and a good carb. Let's combine them together, especially for my diabetic patients. Let's go ahead and eat. So it's crazy. And I tell them it's crazy. And yesterday I told one of my patients, and my intern was like, oh my God. She was like, yeah, oh my God, I started eating like you told me, and I'm losing weight again. I'm like, isn't it crazy how and I didn't mean to sound sarcastic, but I guess it came out. I was like, isn't it crazy how when you eat, it helps you lose weight? I'm like, I was right, huh? Yeah. Because I'm like, it's like a car.
Yeah.
If you don't put gas in the car, it's not going to run.
Yeah.
I have patients that eat once a day, literally once a day. And they're like, I don't know why I can't lose weight. I'm only eating once a day. And I'm always like, I know. My mom used to do the same thing. I'm going to go on a diet. I'm going to eat one time a day, and I'm just going to have lettuce, and I'm going to lose weight. Okay, if you're in your like early 20s, teens, that might help a little bit. But yeah, as you get older, that's just not going to fly. That's not how the body works. So I'm like, you got to feed your body. Your body burns energy all day. If we're not feeding it energy, it's not going to do anything. So why not eat?
So it sounds like give your body what it needs.
Yeah. So if you're going to feed it crap, you're going to feel like crap.
Yeah.
Like, you are what you eat, right?
Right.
So
I feel like I underestimated that for a long time. Like, that was just, it's such a...
Yeah, people say shit all the time, and you're like, yeah, okay. But yeah, no, it's actually true. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Of course.
I feel like we keep talking, so I'm going to have you come back again.
Of course. Anytime.
But my actual last question, because we talked a lot about how kind of your journey, your own experiences and how you've helped others has really like come together at multiple points. So what is it that fills your soul?
Just seeing that someone makes progress.
Okay.
I actually helped, and it's not about me, but I love to see that they're thriving, that I like, oh my God, I get so excited when my patient's like, oh my God, I don't have to use my insulins anymore. I'm no longer diabetic. Wow. I can tie my shoe without breathing heavily. I can feed my cat, one of my favorite patients. I love him to death. He's like, I can bend down and feed my cat now, and I'm not like struggling out of breath. I'm like, it's those tiny things we take for granted, but it's just so cool to see that progress overall. Like, that's my favorite part. So that's what fuels me. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Love it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I know that you are a crucial role in these people's lives because like you said, like those moments that we take for granted, so heart-filling for these people and their journey in their life.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Let me do my whole spiel and
go
then
ahead, girl.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening to the Souly Human podcast. So episodes release on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, both visual and audio to whichever is available. But as you go into your day, as you go into your week, please be empathetic with yourself. Give yourself love. I think it's something so easily that we give to the people around us that we love. And then for some reason, we don't give that to ourselves. So be empathetic with yourself today. Be patient with yourself today. And we'll talk again soon.